Aaron. Go live for me, Aaron. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus show, live, L-I-V-E, live with an exclamation point, and we love you. We want to know, could it be love? And we're here to start talking about these things we love to talk about every day. Aaron, how are you? I'm excited. I'm back again. We got a big week planned for this weekend. Woo, I'm spinning around in my chair. I'm saying, whoa, it's got to happen, right? Beautiful things getting ready to happen this weekend. We're going to start the fight the right way when we get to Washington coming up this Saturday. And you know what we're going to be doing Saturday? Marching from McPherson Square all the way down to Washington to the Capitol to tell our elected officials that we need to protect voting rights because we've been calling them. We've been talking to them. And I got started right away. But you know what, Aaron? Let's back up 1 second because I know folks are so excited to get to this voting rights march, but they also need to know who the host is, the co-host is with the fire, one who brings it, the one who's here for it. The Small Business Caucus, Louisiana Democratic Small Business Caucus interim chair from Baton Rouge. I want to introduce my favorite, always here helping me out, Aaron Porsche. Aaron, introduce yourself. Tell the people about what's going on.
Hey, everybody. I am Aaron Porsche, as Mark said.
Oh, yeah.
Established here, tuning in Louisiana, and I am just staying in my space, masked up, okay?
Masked up. But yeah, I know you're down there telling folks that they need to get vaccinated, but we're excited about this weekend. I just jumped right into it, forgot all about you almost because I'm pumped up for this Saturday. We need to get it done. We need to get all that done, but you're right, Aaron. We need to take time to remind folks, still get your vaccine shots, still social distance, and wear your mask because it's out there. You know, the Rona, as they call it. You know, the what's the other version of it? Tell me what it is, man. What do they call it?
COVID-19?
No, they don't call it COVID-19. You know, they have that part where it's diverged, and now you have the variant that's out there. You know what that's called.
The variant. I mean,
the variant. There's two different variants out there. And a matter of fact, there's a lot of big events that are going out there that are super spreaders, but we're telling folks, hey, don't fall for the okie doke. We love you and we want you to be here. So make sure you're taking care of your loved ones and yourself. Get your vaccine, wear your mask. I can't say it any simpler than that. Other than that, we're just happy that we're here. We're blessed. So we can come back here and tell you once again, all the things that we need to get done in this short amount of time. Right, Aaron?
Right on.
Right on from Baton Rouge. All right. Hey, listen, the next thing we want to talk about, but we're going to jump right into a little something about voting in Virginia, but we come back to this voting rights thing again. We've got big elections that are happening this year. In November, we've got our folks, Terry McAuliffe running for governor. We got Hala Ayala, give me the thing, Hala Ayala. And I pronounce her name wrong. Got to work on my Spanish. And of course, Mark Herring, our Attorney General. We are still doing great things out there, supporting them. And we've got a great guest coming on this week that's been winning the fight along with the rest of the Democrats and folks supporting Democratic causes in Virginia, where Virginia has gone from deep red 10, 12 years ago to deep blue. And we want to keep it that way. We want to keep the governorship. We want to keep the lieutenant governorship. And we want to keep the Attorney General for all of the executive offices and statewide offices. But at the same time, y'all get excited now. Because November 3rd is coming. We've got the House of Delegates, and they're up there for a re-election, and there are some local voting that's coming up there. Virginia, we've got action every year in Virginia. It's going to either be statewide, it's going to be national, it's going to be local and state mixed together. Just something happening all the time, because Virginia is constantly out there leading the fight and helping others around the DMV and across the country to go ahead and make sure we're electing Democrats everywhere. Can we get excited and give a high five for Virginia? There it is. Give my own self the high five. Where you at, Aaron? Bam. There it is. Hey, be excited. One more time. I miss you. There you go. Boom. Hey, listen, we've got to get things done here. We want to make sure that that you're just not hearing the same thing on the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus show live. We're actually making it hopefully a little fun for you, a little exciting, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're giving you information that you can use. And it's important because there's a lot of things that are going on here in Virginia and across the country that a lot is on the line for coming up this year in 2021 into 2022 through 2024. We've got to get the work done now so we can see what we want to see happen in 2022 and 2024. It is important that the work gets done now. Now let's talk about some of that stuff that we need to get done. I'm going to go back into the Virginia race one more time because it is Woke Wednesday and I want y'all to stay woke. Sometimes people say woke, what do you mean? You always say, people being woke. Listen. You want to be woke or you want to be sleepwalking? I suggest you be woke. However you're going to do what you're going to do, hopefully you do something for the Democrats. But stay awake, be aware, be vigilant. Woke is a good word as opposed to being sleep. You can't get nothing done sleeping, can you, Aaron?
Not at all. You got to be active.
Oh, yes. You can't get nothing done sleeping. And we've got a big election coming up on November 3rd. And we want to make sure in November 3rd that you're out there voting for our candidates and getting the things done that we need to do. Last week, we talked about the caucus was with Terry McAuliffe, and whoa, we had a slam down, jump up, get it done event with the small businesses in Northern Virginia. We're also working with small business across all 11 congressional districts across the state. Terry McAuliffe is everywhere. Hala Ayala is everywhere, and Mark Herron is everywhere. We've got to start talking about their events. And coming up more into the future, we'll talk about more of what they're doing. But there's a lot of hard work that gets done in precincts levels, getting done at the county level, getting done at the congressional district level, and getting done all across the state. But the people that get it done are you, the voters, the people that get out there and do the work. And trust me, there's work to be done. And our I'm going to be nice, Aaron. Our competition are the people who on the other, as our elected officials say, my good friends on the other side of the aisle are doing everything they can, both legal and illegal, in order to suppress the vote, in order to do what they need to do. Because when it comes to Democratic officials and Democratic things, Democrats are out there getting it done. Democrats are out there in the larger numbers. Democrats are out there voting. So we need to stay woke. Woke Wednesday, stay woke and don't go to sleep after the national elections. You want to stay you want to stay engaged. Because I'm telling you, the enemy, well, I don't want to call it the enemy. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to take all that back. I'm going to use more great words. Our competitions are the people who would not like to see the democratic values come to pass. And they are the enemy of our ideas, not the enemy as Americans, but the enemy of our ideas. Our opponents want to do anything they can do because they don't have the numbers. So they don't want you to just vote and may the best person win. They want to basically tilt the playing field, move the goalposts. And we are not here for that. We're going to stop that. Can I hear you say, Aaron, we need to stop that?
Hey, you let them know. It's time out for all of that.
It's got to be time out for that because we're working too hard and too much work has gone into it, Aaron. But we need to stop all that madness that's going on. And I want to make sure that people know that our voting day, I made a mistake earlier. It is not November 3rd. It's November 2nd. I know everybody else knew that. They probably took a huge gasp when I said the 3rd. They probably went, does he not know what day the voting happens? It happens on November 2nd. I made a mistake, but either way, you need to be there and you need to get out there and vote. And more importantly, you need to make sure things are happening on your end of the world, in your state, in your particular congressional district, in your precinct, right there on your block with your friends and families and neighbors. That's where it actually gets done. It gets done with voters and volunteers on the ground putting in the hard work to make sure democratic ideals continue to happen here locally and across the nation. Aaron, can you add anything to that? Because I know down in Baton Rouge, you all are getting it done. Tell me a little more what's happening in Baton Rouge if you got something to add real quick before we go on to the next piece.
Hey, nothing to add, Mark. I think we're good. They just need to take action, understand who's on the ballot, and show up, cast their vote.
Show up, cast your vote, get it done. That's what needs to happen. And you know what? We've got a guest this week, very exciting gentleman, Bryan Graham. He's the chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee, and that county is that committee is a county arm of the Democratic Party in Virginia, and they help to serve to promote the principles of the Democratic Party and our elected Democratic candidates, and elect Democratic candidates to offices across the county, the state, on a national level. With nearly 15% of the population the population of Virginia, Fairfax County plays a major role in the state and national elections. Basically, it's kind of like the tail that wags the dog. We don't mean that in a negative way, but there's just a lot of people in Northern Virginia, and if Northern Virginia does what it needs to do, usually we're able to win what we need to win throughout the states. And Bryan Graham has been a gentleman who's been working with Democrats for a number of years, from when he was working with Young Dems right up to the point now where he's chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee, where we have 9 magisterial districts. And, I'm in the Mount Vernon district, but this guy's been getting it done for a lot of years. And I want to bring him into the conversation before we start to talk about H.R. 1 and H.R. 4 and the exciting things that happened with the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that happened yesterday. So I want to take no other time, but I want to make sure that we are putting our hands together, that we're ready to talk to this young man here who's been getting it done. And I can say young man because I've got gray hair, and all his hair is still the same color it was when he was born. So,
not all of it.
Bryan Graham, Fairfax County Democratic Committee Chair. Bryan, it's great to see you, man. Introduce yourself. Tell the people about yourself.
I mean, I wish I could bottle up your energy and sell it on the internet or something, because it's incredible. I mean, if we all had that energy, we would not ever lose an election, right?
Absolutely.
No, I mean, I'm excited to be here. I mean, my first kind of real job was in a small business, and I worked for a company that was a small business and has graduated to a larger business, whatever. So, but obviously my connection here, my work here or whatever is the stuff that we do for Fairfax County in electing Democrats. And we have, I mean, we're larger than 10 states in the District of Columbia, just in Fairfax County itself, right? So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in here, Fairfax County. You talk about 15% of the population or whatever. We have basically 20% of the Democrats in the state in our county. So getting people out to vote here is how we win elections. And we could, there's lots of stuff to talk about how things have changed, but just to tie it into the voting, the connection to voting rights, right? You see all the stuff that is going on in Texas and whatever. The Republicans are looking at the census data, looking at the changing demographics, and their concerns, right? And they're looking, and if you look at redistricting, you look at everything else, people in power trying to hold on to power because the warning signs are there, flashing there, and they're going to do everything that they can to try to prevent us from taking control, basically. So we have to do everything we can to make sure that we protect the right to vote. And I'd love to talk about some of the things that we've done in Virginia recently to take Virginia from 49th. I think we were 49th in the country in voting rights to, I think, 12th just over the last year or two. So lots of work going in there. But I mean, that's when we always say when we vote, we win. So that's really worth it.
Well, Bryan, man, you get it done with the work that a lot of people who are not involved directly with the Democratic Party and getting people elected, you can tell them the mechanics of that, and you can also obviously know about what's happening on a larger national level, because you know how important it was with H.R. 4 getting passed yesterday, which is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which basically puts pre-clearance back into the into the law, so that states, if they want to make any changes, they're unable to without it going through the Department of Justice. That's just the short version of really what that bill does. It puts the 1965 Voting Rights Act back to where it was, with a few more things with it as well. It's an important thing to get done, and now we got to get it through the Senate. We need to get rid of that filibuster, and we need to do whatever we need to do to make sure that happens, because all Americans deserve the right, no matter where they sit, on either side of the aisle or in the middle of the aisle or not on the aisle at all, that they have a right to unabridged voting. I know you agree with that. And the Fairfax County Democratic Committee is what basically gets it done. It's an arm of the Democratic Party of Virginia, but it works directly down to a precinct level to get things done in the congressional districts that you represent. Tell us a little more how Fairfax County Democratic Committee gets that done. Just give people a little more detail. I want you to put them to sleep, but tell them a little more about the technical stuff that actually happens, because it's a big job that you get done.
Oh, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things to do in a county of our size, where we have over 240 polling locations, right? Places people can vote on election day. But I think a lot of things are changing because of the laws that we've had change. We have more than 1,000. We have more than 1,000 members, and we have many more volunteers kind of on top of that, right? So locally, you've already talked a little bit about districts, but we organize down to the precinct, and we have people there through the year, not just on election day, doing canvassing, organizing, having precinct parties or house parties or regional house parties, whatever, kind of generating interest in Democratic candidates and ideas. And then we take all of that through, we have election protection folks that we gather to have lawyers or people that we can give some training to at the polls to make sure that people have protection at voting. And then we have people outside at the polls as well on election day to make sure that if people look distressed when they're coming out, or if they are having issues or whatever, that we have people there to be helpful to make sure that people have the opportunity to vote. So all of that comes to, especially with 240 locations or whatever, having people all there all day on election day or whatever is something that's not easy to do, right? So there's a lot of organization to make sure that happens.
That's right, Bryan. Bryan, you guys get it done, or the Fairfax County Democratic Committee gets it done at the grassroots level. And I think that's a word that most people understand. We're talking about people's neighbors and people right there in their neighborhoods, working to get school board people elected, working to get congressmen elected, both senators and representatives on a federal level, delegates that have to get elected, and senators on a state level, that right down to the soil conservation guy, to who's the head of water, everything. So this is right down the dog catcher. We are right down there, right there where people, where I guess where they say the leather meets the ground on getting things done. So we're not out there flying. I mean, we know, and we get to meet some of the hired people, but more importantly is we're working with the people who actually get these sort of things done. And this is what I wanted to say too. When we talk about HR 4 and HR 1, this is where we're most affected. And this is the part I'd like you to talk about a little bit, because when they talk about not allowing people to give people water when they're in line, the number of polling places that are actually where people can go vote, not allowing people to intimidate voters who are in line, all the other rules that happen at a very local level. HR 4 is the bill, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which basically gives all of that the same thing no matter where you go across the country, so people can't pull all these different tricks that are going on. I don't know whether or not I explained it well enough, but I know you understand that too. Maybe you can explain the importance of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee and what it's going to have to battle if we don't get HR 4 passed, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Well, unfortunately, right now in Virginia, we have Democratic control, right?
Right.
So we're in the great situation where we have the General Assembly in Richmond and the governor and everyone kind of on board with making sure that we do things to expand access to voting, not make it harder to vote. And there's a ton of things that we've been doing in terms of like you look at some of these states and you have to have a very specific or like a medical reason to vote absentee. And then you can't pass out water or the polls, and then so people have to wait in line and wait all day in line in hot weather and whatever else. And they want people to turn away, right? And then you look at the things that the local organizations do, where they will remove polling locations from particular parts of town or whatever else, right? They're finding ways to engineer winning without changing the rules, whatever, but just by rigging it, right, to make it harder for people to vote, and basically just like a test of will and endurance. So we're very fortunate right now. I mean, the big thing that we are doing right now is making sure that we don't lose to Republican control in Virginia, because if that happens, then we could immediately lose some of the things that we've done. You don't need a reason to vote absentee in Virginia anymore, right? We have a 45 early day voting period in Virginia now. So 45 days before November 2nd, people can go and either to the registrar, or there's usually multiple locations in your county or city where you can go vote. And you don't need a reason. You can just show up early, and you've made your decision, go vote, right? And then they actually added just this past year, they added Sunday voting now as well. So there are going to be not everyone's adopting it, but localities now are allowed to do Sunday voting. So hopefully we're gonna see some souls to the polls types of things, where we get some interest and excitement in getting people to come vote on a Sunday. So there's just a whole bunch of things like that, and then I guess the other big thing that we did in Virginia after taking Democratic control was not requiring photo ID anymore for voting.
Right, so, exactly. Photo IDs was taken away. Mail-in voting was we're keeping that. We still have that. All those sorts of things, Bryan, that you talked about is what people are having trouble with in both states in the South and really across the country. It's something like 400 bills, and it's not just the southern states or what you might traditionally think would have been a problem, but this is actually happening all across the country. So it's important that we win these races, because here's how Virginia makes a difference, guys. And Bryan, you can tell me whether this is true. When Virginia wins and keeps control of what we're doing in Virginia, we're able to add our 2 senators, add our congressmen to the Congress, the House of Representatives, as well as the Senate. Well, we now have the votes that we need if we can do this in other states, in order to make those other states have the same sort of ability to vote unabridged in Virginia, the way that they want to be able to have it in Texas and Florida with the things that people are doing there. Those sorts of things can't happen no matter what state it is. That is the importance of H.R. 4, getting that all across the country. So what we've always done in Virginia, as I understand it, and what we've done is that we get out once we take care of what we need to do here, and we're not under threat. We actually call and help states that are in the or the district or Maryland, or calling across the country and doing other different things, whether it's what do you call it, doing the phone calling and all other sort of things that you can do to help from a remote standpoint, and also giving money, helping other states and helping other candidates get elected. So I mean, all those sorts of things are important. So just because Virginia is good doesn't mean that we can't do things for other places, but we need to get that vote out in Virginia to stay good, so we can do those things in those other states. We got to take care of home, man. So I don't know how much you know about HR 1, which is the voting For the People Act, but that even puts more ability out there for folks in order to have unabridged voting. And the For the People Act was a bill that was passed by the House, but it basically expands access to voting. Automatic and same-day voter registrations across the country, 2 weeks of early voting, banning the purging of the polls, and it restores the full protections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. All those sort of things are put back in place. We also have finance reforms, banning foreign money, election security, making sure we have the proper security around our election sites, both physical and cyber, to prevent independent commissions and things, also from a gerrymandering standpoint. and really, when people think about voter security, you think about gerrymandering. Basically, they want to make sure that the voters get a chance to choose the elected officials, and the elected officials don't get the opportunity to choose the voters. And also providing resources and grants to states to replace voting machines, so everybody has enough machines, enough resources, so they're in all the locations without states sort of arbitrarily saying, there's 200,000 voters, and we're only going to put 3 machines there for you in one obscure location. And of course, processes for auditing and securing election votes after the fact. Because what the Republicans are trying to do, or the folks on the other side of the aisle, they're saying, even if you do win the election, we're now taking control over local elections. So even if you do win, instead of you being a majority Democratic area and having your own voting election commission right there, they're basically saying the state's going to take control of that. And we're going to put 2 Republicans there and 1 Democrat. So we have the majority of votes there. We're going to look for stuff, try to find stuff the way President 45 tried to do when he was calling down to Georgia saying, hey, aren't there any more votes down there? Can you find me 11,000 votes? Or somebody did something illegal, but everything went to the courts, and then they threw all that out. But those sort of things are what's going on, to what Bryan was alluding to earlier, when they're saying they're trying to, they can't win a straight up voting competition. So what they're trying to do is tilt the field, move the goalposts, or I hate to use that word, but rig the election. And because I kind of attribute that word to the other side of the fence. We don't rig elections. We don't move the goalposts. And we don't change the field on people at the last minute or the rules, and we allow everybody to go vote and may the best candidate win. That is the American way. That's not a Democratic way. That's not a Republican way. That is an American way, making sure everybody has the same constitutional rights that everyone else has. And this is a big deal, because that's what we're trying to keep in place. We need to make sure that that does not go away, because we lose that. That's foundational. We start to lose our democracy after that. Bryan, I just kind of did my soapbox, but I'm going to step down and let you step up.
Well, I think it reminds me of Jim Crow laws, basically, where it's like how do you win? It's not, maybe it's not as overt now as like poll taxes and whatever else, but it's just kind of finding ways to game the system. Yeah. I want to win as a Democrat. I want to win because I think that we have the best ideas. I don't want to win because I cheated, right? Like, right. If I can't come up with ideas that the majority of people are going to embrace, then then you got to think about your ideas. And somehow the other side on this has I felt like they've lost their way a little bit. But it's kind of crazy that we have federal elections, and maybe this goes back to like federal versus classical Republican type of stuff, where the states just get to decide, whether or not someone's registered to vote or not, or whatever, and then turn them away type of stuff. So there's just, and that's not even getting into the redistricting, the districting stuff, which you've alluded to with the pre-clearance and things. If you look at Virginia, if you look at Virginia districts, right? Virginia, Virginia is, now we have Democratic control, but the maps that we have really were Republican gerrymanders, right? Especially in the House of Delegates.
Right, because they had control at the last census, right?
Right. They
didn't have control. They had one of the houses.
They had one of the houses, and they had the governorship. Right. And the way that a lot of this works in states is the House, who controls the government is the one that draws the map. The people in power says these are, it's not, the people in power are saying, okay, you get to vote for this person or whatever type of thing. So we have fewer divided houses across America now than we have ever before, or not ever before, but in a long time or whatever, right? But the Republicans have control of most of the redistricting in America. They have control of most of the voting laws in America. I mean, other than like California, where you have a lot of people, right? So that's the worry, that's the concern, and that's something where to fix this beyond the Virginia level, we do need everyone to agree that these are basic protections that we need to provide to people, to say, these are things that you need to have as basic rights when you're voting.
That's correct.
And part of that is not being thrown into a district to devalue your vote of some kind, right, or in some way,
Right.
or of your community or whatever, right? So there's I don't know exactly where we're going with the HR1 and HR4. I mean, I wish we could decide on if no one wins forever. This is my message for everyone. No one wins forever, right? You know, at some point you're not going to win, right? So this is our opportunity to fix the things that are critical and important to us. And I think we could decide that it is important that after a lot of our history and civil rights history and other things, right, that we should be able to agree on some basic things that everyone should have as citizens in America as their voting rights.
That's right. Well, Bryan, I wanted to ask you, let's do a little bit of political analysis here. And I know this is the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus, but we both have been working in the political arena for a while. If we're doing some what-if scenarios, what do you think Democrats should be doing if, in fact, things don't go our way? What are the sort of firewalls and things that we need to put in place that you think would be important in order to protect democratic ideals, in order to give us an opportunity to stave off what the competition is trying to do until the next election comes around? You can talk about it from a state, local perspective, or even a national perspective. I'm just kind of throwing that out to sort of look at your analysis point of view on this.
I mean, it's hard because the thing that protects anything from kind of the back and forth is actually changing the Constitution, right? And that happens on the federal level and also on the state level, right? The things that you kind of could get everyone to agree on from a foundational level, you know, are things that really should go like this, but I think that are pretty basic rights. I mean, we talk about the ERA, to divert for a second, right? The Equal Rights Amendment, that still, you know, we don't have part of anything in our Constitution that says that women are equal to men, basically, right? So, you know, it takes a lot of time to make any of those changes clearly, as we've seen with the example of the ERA. I mean, that's the only way I kind of see it really being protected from a back and forth. Right now, you have the fragility of the back and forth between Republican and Democratic control, and we seem to have the war in the Senate about Senate rules, where, you know, we used to have the filibuster for that, or, you know, or whatever. But now kind of basically those traditional rules are going out the door with the Senate, and I feel like I think the Senate is already its own special snowflake, right? You know, the smaller states already have an outsized say in the Senate. So why do we need special rules too on top of that, that say that you also need 60% of the people to agree or whatever, right? Like, you know, that really is giving an even greater voice to a smaller number of people than ever. And maybe that was some kind of super foundational, amazing thing that they came up with when they came up with the concept of the Senate. But I do think that we need to think about changing some of these things. But I don't know how we get everyone on board with that.
Well, I think the one thing that the founding fathers did do, which I think is ingenious, that does make the Constitution of the United States a living document. Some people try to be being literal about what it says, but if they didn't want to allow for changes in the country, things that they couldn't foresee, then they wouldn't have allowed amendments to happen. Now, some of the challenges with amendments to happen to the Constitution or other things is it's very difficult. It's very challenging to get an amendment passed. And it's almost like things have to get to such a level of contingency to where you're not going to be able to hold on a second. Wow, it's just all my Apple stuff is going off.
Everything's exploding.
I'm right in the middle of my show right now, so I need to continue to do this. So what I'm going to have to do here, Hey, man, technology. You love this Mac stuff, but man, it's going. It's happening on my computer and on my phone at the same time. But you know what?
But I mean, you're right. Well, you had something. Oh, it is the world we live in now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, though, like you were talking about things kind of being a bad enough problem that everyone has to agree to fix it, right? And, you know, do we put up with losing elections for 20 or 40 years before we all decide that we need to fix it, like that we've had enough and that we have to fix it, or, right? So, I mean, doing what we can now in terms of, like, we really, like, I don't think there is another option. We need to pass some of these voting rights laws. And then, and if we don't, then, and we start losing all of these things, like I'm very worried that we will do, then, you know, that's on us. But we need to do what we can to protect the voting rights of Americans, to make sure that they have every opportunity, if they want to vote, that they have the opportunity to vote, kind of regardless of their situation.
Well, and this has been cyclical in the sense that we're going over ground that we've been over more than once, and going over that ground again and again. And some people can say that the problems with this are foundational in how the Constitution was created in this country. But I think most fair and people who support what this country proposes to be its ideals here in this country and around the world is everybody gets a free opportunity to vote, and people are not being judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, as Martin Luther King said. And there's going to be folks out there who don't believe in really supporting the Constitution as it's stated, that want to kind of fix the game in their favor. What we have to do is, I think, to be honest with you, is we have to remain vigilant. And I think Virginia remains vigilant because we have elections every year at the state, local, and federal level, depending upon the year. So we have to stay vigilant. But I think we need to get that same sort of attitude out to the rest of the other states that are not in that situation. I think as let's just say that what we would not like to happen does occur, then we don't have to wait until we're in a 3-alarm fire in order to try to do something about it. We need to make sure that we're acting differently so that we can make sure that the country doesn't get in a position to where, you know, it's a 3-alarm fire, and now we have to take extraordinary measures to get things done with the Constitution and everything else. How we go about that, I think Virginia can be instrumental in, just because of what we do. An example, because, you know, Virginia used to be the home of the Confederacy. It used to be the home of all the places where they tried to start the Civil War to tear this country apart. We've basically turned that around in the state of Virginia. And so I think we're sort of a beacon and can lead the way in what we've done. Let us be a beacon and be instrumental in sort of passing this on to other folks who, you know, who don't come from the same history as we do here, particularly in Virginia. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I agree. I think I met with Gene Wu, who's one of the, and we're fortunate being in the DC area to be close to some of the Texas representatives that had to flee their state really to protect voting rights in their state.
Right.
As a fundamental idea or whatever. So, you know, I was fortunate to be able to meet with one of them, Gene Wu, and talk about this. Yeah. And I feel like it's pretty interesting that they view Virginia like when they're in their house in Austin or whatever, the Democrats there are like looking at their phones every day and looking at news about the progress of things that we're doing in Virginia, and are just envious. And I think that's amazing. But if you look, Virginia became what I would call a blue Commonwealth now, right. and hopefully it stays that way for a while, really because of of two things: of kind of changing demographics in Fairfax County, but also the dramatic growth in the Northern Virginia area in surrounding Loudoun County and Prince William County, right. And those things together really have been able to deliver statewide elections for Democrats for quite some time now, since Bobby Donald, right? So, you know, I think the thing that, as I mentioned before, the thing that people are concerned about is the thing that Republicans are seeing on the wall or whatever are demographic changes that are making it more difficult for them to win elections. And when we see kind of all the redistricting happen, it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what happens in some of these states. I was trying to figure out in Texas, as an example, how this doesn't get messed up. Because Republicans have control. The Republicans control the map. They have, they have Greg Abbott out there as governor, signing all kinds of crazy executive orders and things like that. How do they actually fix it? But the weirdest thing is Greg Abbott decided to defund the legislature. So the legislature actually might not even have any money to operate to draw maps. So it might actually be thrown to the courts, and actually the Democrats down there are more excited about the courts drawing the maps than the partisan Republicans in office drawing the maps. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how some of this plays out, but that's just part of an important thing that's going on.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Bryan. I have faith in the people, and particularly in the young people of this country, and the young people that are in all the different states across the country, because I think that's what's made a difference in Virginia and the diversity that we have in the state of Virginia and in a lot of the key areas in Virginia, that basically, as long as we continue to move along that path, and some people like to call it progressives. I don't call it progressives. I think when people see something that does not match up with our ideals and our beliefs of what we believe is fair and what is per the Constitution, we take action and make differences in Virginia. And I think when we're taking that action to correct the things and correct the injustices of the past, that gets more people involved. That allows us to keep the majority of people on our side. So one of the things that's of concern for me is when our elected officials, no matter what side of the fence that they sit on, when they don't act on the values that we hold as Virginians and we hold as Americans, because I think that's what helps us to lose elections and make people say, oh, I'm not interested in these guys. They're just like the guys on the other side of the fence. They're all the same. And I can tell you for a fact, Democrats are not like Republicans here in as far as the policies and the values that we have and the things that we're trying to accomplish here in the state of Virginia. We need to do more of that in Virginia in every way, on an economic front, on a social front, on a political front, so that we are moving ahead and we are an empowering people. And as we empower people, we maintain a hegemony on our basic right to rule with the consent of Virginians, because of the things that we're doing that makes them happy with what we're doing. Because if we don't stay along that line, then that's when I think we start to lose. We cannot look like our competition. We have got to do the things that shows Virginia is moving ahead. What do you think about that? What's your feeling about that sort of thing that's happened in Virginia?
No, I agree. I mean, I think we've done a lot of great things just over the last few years and since taking control in Virginia. And I feel like people, we need to be singing them from the mountaintop. I mean, it's not like this election in particular is not just about the connection to Trump or whatever else, right? This is about kind of maintaining to avoid the word progress that you said, but the progress that we've made in Virginia. We need to be dragging about that. I mean, and not just the voting rights stuff that you talked about, but also some improved gun control, capping the price of insulin to $50.
Right.
I mean, you could legalizing marijuana, getting rid of the death penalty. I mean, you could probably scroll a whole bunch of things or whatever that are very popular things.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Let's say in Virginia, African American business, per se, small businesses currently are not getting a equity in the amounts of the contracts that are put out for services and for products purchased by the state. When Virginia can say specifically, well, you know what? African Americans have been here fighting in every war this country has had for the right of independence, when we fought in the wars of independence right up to the Afghan war. They've given blood in their souls and their highest measure for this country. We need to make sure that when we're doing a division of the resources that we have for these taxpayers, 20% of them African American in Virginia, and I can talk about this one, why I'm an African American, that's why. So, and I'm a small business caucus chair. We need to make sure we hold up those ideals, and then we do what you said. We brag about it. I mean, we don't just brag about it. We strut around and talk about it and say, hey, look at how these businesses that once were disenfranchised, they're now franchised. There was this many, now there's that many. Here's the changes that have happened in these neighborhoods. Here's the fundamental change that's happened in legacy wealth for these families, for people who have been here since the inception of this country. That's just one particular thing. We've got lots of other areas. And however we need to get that done, either on a state level or on a private and in a public partnership, we need to do it so we can then turn around and brag about it, meme about it, put it on social media and say, listen, this is why you want to come to Virginia. This is why you want to export what we do in Virginia, because now you can have this in your state. And that's going to allow us to continue to win elections and over time overtake any of this sort of crazy and silliness, in my belief, that currently that our competition is doing out there. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree completely. I mean, I feel like, and especially from the business perspective, I mean, you saw boycotts against states and things like that happening when certain laws were being passed, or when voting rights laws in Georgia or whatever else, right? Like all of those things that have happened or whatever. No one wants to have their business based in a state where all of a sudden people are going to start boycotting and not doing business with them or whatever else, right? Right. So, right. The idea behind all of the things, whether it's LGBT protection or voting rights or whatever else, right, is to have a welcoming, accepting place, not that people want to come to, with a good education system they could, where their kids can be better off than them. I mean, really, it's pretty fundamental. It's super fundamental of what people really want, right? They want a good job so they can provide for their family, and so that their kids and family can be better than them. That's fundamental. I feel like we've got great things to help with that too.
And that's the sort of thing that we need to get done in Virginia. I mean, because even with the things of these tremendous amount of college loans and debts that are out there, that are the largest amount of debt that's out there, surpassed credit card debt, this college loan debt. What can we do in Virginia, not just for what we're going to do going ahead, but what can we do for the people who are currently affected by this thing? Because it affects small business. It affects younger people getting into business if they have, tens of thousands of dollars in college loan debt. I mean, how can we get these folks to actually do the innovations and do the things that young and new people bring into business? And people often talk about this in terms of students, but most people who are in know that these are parent plus loans. That means parents have signed up for these loans for their kids. Their kids are paying it, but parents have also signed up to this debt too. So it's not just student loan debt. That's a misnomer. What it really is, parent and student debt, which affects parents' retirement decisions, what parents have to do for their parents who are aged and elderly. I mean, these sort of things just sort of ripple through the whole society. And that's the reason why I say you need to stay woke, not just on Woke Wednesday, but woke all the times. And we need to be doing the analysis as a small business caucus to say, well, it's not just doing things that puts more money into small businesses' pockets. It's also, what are we doing overall so you can thrive and not just survive here in the state of Virginia. Of course, we are thriving, but we can do better. There's always room for improvement. I don't know how you feel about that. That's just some of the things that I put out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things we could do as a Commonwealth. I mean, we had a huge budget surplus, right? So Virginia's doing as much as the Republican candidate wants to say that Virginia's in the gutter. We're not, right? Virginia has a great education system, and drawing people here for college, helping them get out of that, and maybe somehow getting rid of their debt, turning that into opportunities to build businesses, small and otherwise, in Virginia. Whatever should be a kind of a natural connection. So whether it's grants or loan forgiveness in certain fields or whatever else, like there's the governor has in the last kind of 2 years or whatever. I can't remember the name of the program, but now there's free community college for the majority of people in Virginia. So I mean, things like that can help, right? But from the student side, but on the other side of that, it is a huge problem with the amount of debt that there is in being able to get yourself free from that debt, so that you can actually kind of grow your own wealth. There's a whole bunch of ways you could skin that, but
well, there's a lot of ways, and it just and when you talk, like when I talk to caucus members and the constituents in the small business caucus, you have certain problems that may be unique to Latino-owned business or Asian-owned business that they have their own challenges with, and then challenges that African-American business have, but also veteran-owned business, woman-owned business, and millennial-owned business, LGBTQ-owned business. Each one of these constituencies within the small business caucus all have their challenges. And I don't, one of the things I try to let elected officials know, listen, you don't need to just wrap everybody up into one ball and say, well, here's what we're doing for small business. Well, small business have different issues, and the different issues address them, not just based on what particular identity group they come from, but the industry that they're in. So the more that we get our elected leaders really talking to small businesses and folks who want to go into business, the more that they can be aware of how they can get more people involved in it. And I think part of what it is that you do with FCDC in keeping Democratic leadership there, that at least they've got an ear and an open mind to hear those things we're trying to bring to the table. Just like the concerns around the new marijuana laws that are out there, which we had a great talk last week with Jack Dobbin on that, and what's happening in the DV and how small business plays a role in that as those laws are defined over the next couple of years in the state of Virginia, how they can be benefit from that, and communities that have not had the equity that they should have gotten, and have gotten more of the penalties from the marijuana laws that used to be out there. I mean, there's a lot that Democrats can do that we can crow about when we get things like that done. And we need to talk more about that. Terry McAuliffe talked about, and I was surprised to hear that Virginia was 50th in paying teachers. I was like, whoa, 50th.
I mean, if you look at raw numbers, we're not 50th, but it's based off of compared to cost of living, right? Yeah. It's you know, especially in Northern Virginia and in parts of Virginia, it's not the cheapest place to live.
Right.
Right. I mean, Fairfax County and Loudoun County are some of the highest median income household income locations in the U.S. Right. So
absolutely,
it's not, you know, people are getting paid, but it's also expensive to live here. Housing prices are ridiculous right now. Right. I mean, if you have student loan debt and whatever else, and you're making $50,000 a year or whatever, like I don't know what house you're buying in Northern Virginia. But,
Northern Virginia.
But that's just one of the things.
Exactly.
I want to take just because you told me I can talk about whatever I want.
Go ahead. Yeah, you need to talk about some things that are coming up. We got about another 8 minutes, and I know there's some exciting things that are happening with FCDC. So I was getting ready to bring that up. Talk about it.
I haven't even got. Well, I don't even want to talk about that yet. I want to talk about one other thing. So the reason I got involved in politics at all, whatever, is healthcare. I think it's crazy that your healthcare is tied to what business you're working for, right? And then we all know that there are like special carve-outs for things or whatever for small businesses, that small businesses don't have to provide certain things or whatever. But what does that? We want to support small businesses, but what does that mean to the employees that don't have those benefits, right? So the message that I want to just generally send, right? You know, I like as much as a supporter of President Obama, I was and still am or whatever. Right, the Affordable Care Act didn't go far enough, in my view. Right, and the pandemic has shown again that people's livelihoods, their jobs should not be tied to their health care. Right, a job's come and go or whatever, but our health care is something more foundational, whatever. So whatever we do, I don't know how we're in the situation where this is controversial in any way. I mean, I guess people feel like they need to have better health care than others or something. I don't know. There's something fundamental in like sociological and human nature or whatever, it kind of hidden and buried in there or whatever. But I don't know how we can't agree to have at least some, a basic kind of fundamental health care available to everyone in this country, and not just relying on emergency room care or whatever else.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous. But relieving that burden from small businesses, I think, would also kind of help burden them, right? Or the concern about that, even thinking about any of that, where it's more of a level playing field between small businesses and bigger businesses, I think would also be a huge benefit to small business as well. So I think.
Well, you hit the nail on the head there, Bryan, because a lot of people stay with corporations or stay where they're at simply because they're in positions where, because of their families, not necessarily that anybody has any chronic illnesses, but you don't want to leave and start a business, even if nobody's sick and you got a family, and not be able to cover your family should there be some, it doesn't even have to be a catastrophic illness to put you $50,000, $60,000 in debt. That's a lot of money. But that ain't nothing for a hospital visit, right?
All right.
So I understand what you're saying. I think that, as Democrats, we don't agree on everything. We have a president now that's taken the stance he's taken, but there's been other Democrats, like Tim Kaine and other folks and other ones I won't name that said, hey, it needs to be Medicare for all. Everybody should be able to get the same basic thing. So, I kind of I don't believe in everything that every elected official says. But we're on board enough to say, hey, this is enough for me to go in that direction. Let's fight towards these other things we're trying to get accomplished. What else do you want to say about that?
Well, that also gets into the messaging or whatever. We're just bad at messaging, I think, whatever. But like Medicare for all or whatever as an idea, what does that mean, right? Does that mean everyone's actually on Medicare? Does it mean that Medicare actually is just kind of a base thing and people can have their own, like, they have their own plans, but some of it gets billed to Medicare or whatever. Like, what does any of that mean or whatever? There's all kinds of nuance of that, and we just try to say, are you for Medicare for all or not or whatever? But I think we should be for kind of, I hope we should be for creating some kind of basic level of care for everyone at the very least.
And that's what Democrats basic. We may not agree entirely on a specific approach, but I think generally speaking, we believe everybody needs to be covered with some affordable health care. The ideal is, hey, everybody needs health care. Why don't we just put it in our taxes and be done with it so people have it? They can go on to do other things without that being an encumbrance that allows them not to go start a business or do other things because they don't have that basic health care that they need. I'm right with you on that, man. Right with you.
Good. Well, the other thing I'm going to be kind of scolded if I don't bring up as a topic, though, is that the Fairfax County Democratic Committee. We're mostly a volunteer kind of thing, but we have an office that we pay. We have a staff member we pay for, and we have to print things that we hand out at the polls and all kinds of things. Right? All the stuff that we do. Some of it costs money. So we have our big annual fundraiser, the Jefferson Obama Dinner, on September 12th. At 6 p.m. We were going to do an in-person thing, but just the Delta variant, as you mentioned, has some raised concerns. Do we really want to have several hundred people in a room?
Right.
So we decided we didn't want to be the spreader of the virus. So we're doing a fully virtual event now with catered boxes, I think, from a small business.
Okay, that's fantastic.
And we're going to be distributing them across the county. Obviously, not everyone is from watching is from Fairfax County, but we'd love to have you attend, regardless if you're in Fairfax County or not, or just generally for your support. You can go to the website that's been scrolling on the bottom, fairfaxdemocrats.org, for more information about that at any point.
There have been some really fantastic dinners through the years that I've attended with the Fairfax County Democratic Committee, just to show how the committee has been progressive in its outlook and its change. It's gone from what it used to be called the Jefferson.
Well, it used to be the Jefferson Jackson dinner, and now it's the Jefferson Obama dinner. I personally am not a fan of Jefferson, but and we'd love to see his name going away as well. But especially in the pandemic. if I had my way, I would have gotten rid of his name last year. But the pandemic, keeping us virtual, whatever, kind of keeping the branding of the big fundraising dinner, I thought was important, just to say this is the big thing. We need your support on this thing.
So Democrats have done that across the country, and at least they've progressed. That's the progress that I look with the young folks and new ideas that are bringing into the party to make those incremental changes to be inclusive. Yeah,
well, I'm excited to see what we come up with next. We added Obama, got rid of Jackson, but I'd like to see kind of what is next, or maybe we just make it the Michelle Obama dinner or something. I don't know. But we gotta figure out what we're doing with that. We haven't changed that yet, but I think it's probably coming soon. Well, listen, we really enjoyed having you. You know, we're up for 1 hour and it's 8 o'clock now. Aaron, if I bring you back online, there's one thing I'd like for you to say when you come back online with us. I see you down there smiling in the green room as we bring our co-hostess into it, who's for the first time. She must have had something else she was doing on behalf of some secret mission because she disappeared for a while. Come on back on screen, Aaron. I want to basically thank you for all the technical support and things you do in the background. I know you didn't talk a lot today, but what I'd like for you to do is bring up the March on Washington. Bring that back up one more time. I want to go ahead and say something about that. Once again, folks, we've got the march on for voting rights. That's going to happen this Saturday, the 28th, 2021. The URL that you see up there next to sign up is where you can just type that down and sign up. And basically it starts at 8 o'clock, it ends at 3 p.m. and there's the information. You can see this rerun on Facebook and YouTube. So as we go back to the three of us, Aaron, I want to just give Bryan an opportunity to give his social media handles for his organization and for folks that maybe wonder maybe to contact Bryan. Oh, I mean, ours are pretty easy. It's just Fairfax Dems on everything. So not Fairfax Democrats, but Fairfax DEMS. That's our handles on everything, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. And then, of course, we're fairfaxdemocrats.org or fairfaxdems.org. We've got a lot of the domains. And Bryan's a small business guy too, so we appreciate you coming on the show and doing what you do. We're running a little bit over time, but Bryan, you've been a fantastic guest, man. And I just want to be able to say thank you for coming. And can we have you come back to the show sometime and talk a little more about what's going on with Fairfax County Democrats? Sure, of course. Happy to. We'd love to have you back on, man. I think we talked about some interesting things. And Aaron, you got anything to say before we close it out? You are muted. You are muted.
Yeah, I'm muted the whole time tonight. I'm just letting Bryan go, I think that they're doing some great work out there in Fairfax County. And we had the website just scrolling the entire time because there's a lot of great information that, those that are interested can get connected and plug into the events that you all have going on out there. That's really pushing the envelope and getting people involved and engaged. So thanks again for being here with us on tonight, Bryan. Well, I tell you,
I'm trying to bring it into a little background music to make sure it happens and it plays, but my technology is messing with me a little bit. But here we go again. I think here we go. Give me some volume on this. Oh, I know what's going on. Hold on a second.
Please don't feel me.
Let me make it happen. We got to make it happen, Aaron. Oh, there it is. Hey, folks, it's been the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus show, live, LIVE, exclamation point. And we've had Bryan Graham, chair of the Fairfax County Democrats, and my co-hostess, who always gets it done, Aaron Porsche. We'll see you next week with another fantastic guest. And we love you. Be there this Saturday on the Washington, D.C., but they're doing it around the country. We gave you the URL. Get out there and march on for voting rights and make sure that it happens so that we can continue doing what we do here on the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus of Virginia, Democratic ideals across the country. Thank you, Bryan, and we'll see you all later next time. All right. Be good, folks. You can take us offline, Aaron.